I wonder if my audio can be heard correctly. Hi, Norn. Welcome. First one on the stream, I see. Howdy. Okay, is my music playing? Is my microphone clear? Okay, thanks. Hi, Fluffy. Howler. Chopin. Welcome. Nice place we're at today. It's refreshing. I'm okay. Thanks for asking. I need to change my angle a bit like this. Marvin Lux. Mystic. Oh, of course. That place looks so whimsy and futuristic. I know. It's just another tram ride, chat. Here's Gab commuting yet again. Exciting. Look at that. It's just the city. Oops. It's the closest layout. Genius. Hey Gab, about the storm over there. Everything good? The storm is going to make landfall around Sunday and be at its worst around Monday. So for now, it's yeah, things are still okay. I'm not sure if I can promise to stream. Storm, you mean the one that is heading straight to my city? Wish, I hope you not only keep yourself dry, but also make sure you don't die. That would be terrible if you know, cease being Wish Dream. But yeah, chat, there is a rather nasty cyclone on its way to our country. And it's as large as the darn country itself. But yes, I'm not sure if I can stream on Monday though. I hope my power does not go out and other such unfortunities. Here's to hoping, chat. Become a storm chaser. Hope for the best. Hoping for the best. Good evening. I am awake for some reason and my sleep is set up. Good morning. It is currently 2:24 a.m. Yes. I feel like VR chat changed your default camera. This seems a bit too fish eye. Like, look at this. Yeah. You see, VR chat updated earlier and it's... weird. Maybe I just need to be further out. Something like that. Why Gabe stream so early? I'm actually pretty late. I usually stream around 12:30 a.m. my time, or 12 if I can target it. But alas, here we are. Hello, Axiom. Let me double check some things real quick. No wonder. Mount Titaner Razor Sneer. I don't know. As dynamic as my background is, I think it's a little bit dull. Wish, didn't you stream here? This world. Give snooze hours in the afternoon. I am a night owl after all. It looks like they changed the FOV. I don't know how it feels right. There's this it's ah. I may have to go back to the previous worlds and see how that goes there. It does not feel right to me. Huh. So I did a stream with another person. Here I am on my lonesome. Hi. Just me. And somehow we're going around a city. Looks pretty crappy down there. Check patch notes if available. I have to do that. Is it my lighting? I can't quite put my finger on it. Things just don't feel right. Shininess. No. It's not my luster either. Maybe also because I'm streaming in a different location. Why not enjoy the sunset in the world? Ah. I am. That's why you're joining me here on my trip. What's this? Wishstream says, I also tweak my settings in OBS to make it a bit more prettier. The preview is the reverse for me. Looks at the city in the back. What do you mean you have the camera pan the other way, like this? Ooh, look at the glorious view. Hi there, Doran. That's my view on the streets. Well, I see. Yeah. Bit more gap. No? Here. Damn, that's horrible. Mildly better. What's this? Wishstream says, no worries, I have an emergency pack. Extra clothes in a plastic bag and necessities. Oh, so in case you need to leg it from your place. I hope it does not reach that point, Wish. How are you doing today? I was battling quite a large bout of lethargy earlier, Doran. So sleepy. Blanket monsters. Gonna consume you. Axiom set on fire. But aside from that, I'm okay. Hello, Nanashi. I hope so too, but it seems pretty strong. Maybe the mountains encircling you will provide a natural sort of shield against the incoming tempest, Wish. I'm already expecting a whole lot of floods racing over at my city once it makes landfall. Oh, joy. Been waiting for this the whole day. The stream? Well, gosh, North. I'm flattered. Hi and welcome. The blanket monsters held me captive until 6 a.m. Yes, they had to make sure they had their way with you comfort-wise, right? Like, no, stop, please. I'm about to... Yes. Kuya, sana wag naman. You know how it is. Especially in University Belt, Siopao, it's gonna be flooding all the way here. Shoppa says my mom had us prepare in case our city's canal system is bad at the green area. Oh, yeah. Thank goodness I live on the fifth floor. Reminds me I need to stock up tomorrow on food and supplies. We gotta make sure I'm prepared. Dude, you built mas mataas pa. Oh, that's so bad in that area. Canned goods, battery, damn, the meat, yep. Tomorrow. The blankets have been keeping me on lock a lot this week, says Rook. Ah, a sentiment a lot of us share, huh? What did you message me about? That I am live. Jaden. Lethargy, that's a mood. That was me the entire day, aside from the ego dissolution. What's ego dissolution? I'm sorry, I'm more of a physical and, thinking class. Not really up there the spiritual side of things. Not my forte, wish. I was hoping my roof doesn't fly off during the storm. Well, you better give your roof a good reason to stay. Adding weights on top always helps. There's a reason why cinder blocks and old tires are placed on top. Wish said I'm on both realms, but ego dissolution is basically your sense of self. How does that happen? How do you lose your sense of self? Maybe if you absorb a different identity, for example, now, on this lovely Friday, instead of Geb being himself, he's going to be and act like a girl. Hey, Chat, you ready for my dances? Is that what you mean? Ego dissolution. This success. It was fun being a robot Chalo. Gave me a chance to play with the voice mod. Ah, robotic this time. Rook says we're finally down to below freezing depths and steps, and it's been making me sleepy even worse. If I am at the mercy of an air conditioning unit that spews 20 degrees Celsius air, I can't imagine below zero. I would probably hibernate for months. I call that ego be gone. Says Nord. How's it doing, Gab? At work, so won't talk much. I'll be listening. You focus on the tasks at hand, Blue. But other than that, I'm doing great. Thanks. How low does it get for you? Temperature-wise, probably... Chopa, what's a good temp? Like 20 degrees something, naturally? Yes. Chopa says, I mean, losing your sense of self from how my psych friends explains in layman's terms can happen from many things. The few are traumatic experiences, peer or environmental pressure, or like give me a definite example of what you mean. Oh, Wish says, not really. It's kind of like a POV from being yourself, seeing yourself from a third person because you don't feel like you're on autopilot. I mean, that happens to me too when I drive. Like, oh God, what? 5 more hours? Okay. Disassociation, says Shopao. Oh, that sounds more like apathy. Wish. Oh, was Vesper there? A little late to the party, but still here. Better late than never, right? Losing your personality, says Vesper. That was my case before I met you. I'm... Okay. Wish replies to Shopao. It's a mix of both. Kind of hard to explain without touching base with deeper psychological. I'm not sure. I suppose it's something I have to experience in order for me to understand better. But to lose my sense of self, that's the last thing that's gonna happen to me. You can strip away my food, my clothing, my assets, my everything. But I've never lost my sense of self. I always knew who I was and what I stand for, what I smile for, and what I frown at. I always remained principled and grounded. I I guess. Thankfully, I'm not a damn android now, says Vesper. I think you were just a little shy, Ves. Nordic says you're gone until you're not. Gone until you're not, huh? Hmm. Do I say this? Lauren says, so you live in the Arctic Circle. That's so cold! Negative 60. Goodness. Ikaw kasi kuya, you're strong-willed and you fought it. I mean, that's true. But you have to be strong-willed. I, I do get my moments of being weak-willed. Like, for example, oh my goodness, I don't want to stream today because I'm feeling so lazy. I don't have the will. No, I don't think that's proper. What's an example of being weak-willed, chat? Help me have a better understanding of it. Wish says, I guess the lack for the better word. Autopilot because what I stood for on myself disappeared because support structures were not there anymore. Kind of became invisible despite everyone knows about me. Gosh, that sounds so complicated. ah, all right. I should give a thumbs up. Yes, sure, but we know now we love Vesper, right? Diba kuya? Right, big bro. That's what it translates to, roughly. Which says I was strong-willed, pretty weak right now. Even my confidence. Now if we're talking confidence, I understand that. Like stage fright, for example. I remember when back then in my business, right, presenting bikes and whatnot, I had to face the media. Okay, I'm gonna appear on national television, and then they're gonna interview me on the spot while I'm sitting on my bike out in the street. I was like, wow, I'm kind of unprepared. Yes. I suppose. Yung parang walang-wala ka na sa sarili mo. That translates to something like yourself being gone. Totally. So, no confidence, the feeling of being lost or aimless is that the concrete definition of it? Also, afternoon, Mitzi. I gotta reward yourself with lasagna if you do stew. You get the lasagna, I don't. Well, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the smartest person in the room, so all I can really say is if you're feeling down, I hope you're able to pick yourself back up. Bend. Roll with life's punches, but never break. I never broke. If I never broke, you could too. I was homeless without any support from family and whatnot. Everybody I trusted kinda turned their backs towards me and threw knives in return. All my hard earned money from years of saving up, all the passion and reputation I worked on kind of just dissipated into the wind. It sucked. I know well. I got mad a little bit, but that was like maybe 3% of the experience. Weak willed could mean easily convinced. Like shit. Hello, Gib. How are you doing? Doing alright? DJ Altro is greeting me with a hi. I like how you have the vinyl record icon right next to your name. Wish says that's pretty much what I'm feeding him, but constantly, I suppose. It's similar to disassociation, not really depressed, super neutral in a way. So your life is in autopilot, with not much confidence to steer yourself away from wherever aimless direction you're headed. Is that what it is? It's official Twitch program icon, I see. Nord says, the day humanity invents the time machine, so the day everything goes kaboom. If there was a time machine, you know, oh my god, we're gonna go to the paradoxes again. Because if there was a time machine at some point in the future, they already would have gone in the past and blah blah blah. Kev, where are you from? I hear an accent. Southeast Asia, the Philippines. All the lovely islands I have in my country. All the storms that we experience per year. All the nice cheap food and the endless traffic. Traffic. Alto says, but hell, been a real while since I really touched start stream option. It's as simple as clicking the button. Time machine. I know, Howler. I know that. Lottery. What's that? That's kind of on point, says Wish. Definitely the closest to all descriptions. You got it, Kim. Thank you for letting me understand. In layman's terms, it sucks. It's like having your soul, mind, and body just being an arm that was slept on and you've lost all feeling. It's still attached, but it's just kind of there. I hope the blood flows back. It will. It always will. It will only stop once your heart stops pumping. I realize I've been around for a year and 4 months. 2 more months and it's 1.5 years. Thanks, Sean. Man. Time flies when you're having fun. True. Wish says, I'm definitely not weak-willed in that way. Not the sheep kind. I suppose weak-willed in the way where the motivation to move away from autopilot. Yes, because Wish, you are anything but dumb. You're a smart person. And when your arm returns, it's going to get the 1,000 needles. Ooh. Wish says, I know it'll heal with time. I just need to find that sense of self back. How does one find their sense of self? It's either somebody takes your arm and takes you out of the rain so you can start to dry out, or you find new stimulus perchance. Something you're motivated to explore, do, learn. A person you want to meet perchance. Try out something new and show it to friends. There's so many reasons to wake up to a brand new day and greet it with a smile. despite it being Monday. Because there's always the possibility of something new happening. My biggest enemy of all is boredom, second only to loneliness. Gosh, when you find yourself not able to do it, no, not having anything to do, is more frustrating than not being able to do something. Because you have an empty table despite having the appetite to eat it. Or wait, does that make sense? I'm confusing myself. Nord, with his decades old wisdom, says your greatest enemy is in fact yourself, because you can do more harm to yourself than anyone else can. Precisely. Also, Fluffy, a bit late, but thank you so much for nudging the bar tonight. I appreciate it. Oh, that right on the money. Thank you times two. Gosh. Late? Oh, I didn't. I mean, late. I was late on thanking you. Ah, look at Fluffy. Keeping my train attached single handedly. Never really trusted trams. Mmm. Waffle says, yes, a special someone or good friend can increase your will to do more. It's just like having a workout buddy, right? Lord says, and thus we need friends around us to keep us from stepping into the abyss. Or someone to do avatar stuff with. That's why study groups are a thing. It's nice tackling problems with like-minded individuals. Well, good luck, DJ. Muck may be deep, but I'm sure with enough effort and dedication, you get yourself out of it. Which says I suppose that time zones and everyone busy really didn't get me that chance right now. I need to be around more, I'll be honest. The closest I can relate with to this feeling is I was just talking to my friends about this. I said, you know, last year, my first year in VR chat, things seemed more spontaneous and the hangouts were more. And they replied, well, I guess life just sort of caught up. Schedules change, people leave, and well, all of us just pretty much got busy. And just like you, I said too that I kind of need to be around more. Hence, I'm working on an optimized version of my Avi. Maybe say hello to the people in the furry hideout. Is that what I said? Shh. Come on, Action. I'm making you sound cool. As if you said something profound and deep. I'm doing good, Nick Wolf. Now, come on. Let's go wave our hands and get this crappy old gray clouds forming above our heads away. Let's move on to a different topic. It's a bit too early for food, though. I mean, I can start talking about the buffet I went to last Thursday. I've been meaning to visit that place for a while now. Thailand tiger prawns. Baked, split open in half with cheese on top of it. They're huge too. And then there was this Korean galbi. It's using these cuts of marbled meat. It was the most tender thing I've ever had. Not to mention the black truffle rice with its rather aromatic seductiveness. As good as it tastes. But that's for later. You have a placeholder in. I'll go for it. Pierogi. Pierogi. I need to find a restaurant that gives me a better version of it. The one I ordered was a tad bit too oily when I bought it from them. It's not the best. Lots of flavors though. I like the ones with mushrooms in particular. I just finished eating sinampalukan manok. Perfect with rice. Lots of the soup on it. I think it was called forest mushroom. Pierogi. My Polish heart is proud of you. Great. Speaking of food, oh dear. Wishes I had homemade Pinoy barbecue. Pancit canton and super noodles. One of my go-to meals, wish, is the barbecue from Andox. It's called pork kasim. It's the tender parts of the pork. Nice, marinated, sweet, delicious. Very well worth the money. Their boneless chicken, wrapped in foil, is really good too. I need to go order from them again. I haven't had one of those since college. They've improved a lot, Wish. I was used to Andox. Andox, by the way, is a branch of. They sell rotisserie chicken. Yeah. Andox was known for their rotisserie chicken, but they started selling a lot of things like Toquito Frito, which is the fried chicken, which is so good. And the barbecues, the liempos, and much more. Jasper says, I still need to ask my dad about going to Lola's a few towns over. I took a look at the menu. Other than the popcorn chicken, they do seem legit. Go ahead. Try kare-kare, adobo, and sisig. Those three. And always get garlic rice. Asian cuisine is one of my top favorites, says Altro. Right? I just love Chinese food, regardless of what people say. It's delicious.
Shinzies, shinnies, shinnies.
Raung has decided to go walkabout. Nice old big and feral, but civilized enough not to trample my place. And as he is doing so, a few of the embedded jewelry from wayward adventurers who has attempted to slay him has fell my way. A brass ring here, a silver earring there. Thank you so much. What's this? Wish says, if you've ever heard about the avatar named the Bennett, that's what I'm wearing. I don't know how I feel about being a bunny, but everyone tells me I fit it really well, so I can see you being a bunny. Maybe if I see it in person, that would be better. hmm. Let's see, I did extend my invitation to a few people for the Hangout post stream. Vesper says, They had sisig and adobo. The garlic rice, not that other one though. Kare kare? Kare dash Kare? Oh no. That with ox stripe in it and lots of extra special peanut butter sauce. Delicious. Go with adobo with some garlic fried rice. Fantastic choice. I'll see you around with it later if you stay on Paul's stream. I'd be happy to show you around. Yeah, sure. I'm more curious about the abbey you said you had. Filipino peanut butter curry. Exactly. Sometimes, says best. Vesper says, bunnies are known to be very sweet and affectionate, not to mention cute, but also very sassy and pitch their own little attitude, so I say it would fit. Vesper's definitely not a bunny then. Speak of new avies, soon enough, I will be able to stretch my Unity legs and work on something. Well, not for me. It's for V. How does the view look from here? Oh, hi, butt. Hi, legs. Hello, Mox. More of like, how do I say this? I like constantly touching up things. Don't worry, the rest will stay secret. Gosh, you're all making me laugh here and smile. Okay, I think I needed that tonight. Wish, if anything, you need to smile more. Come on. Not so hard to be happy. Pick at the little breadcrumbs that life drops you. The ones that aren't stale. What's this? What a view, right? Ain't it lovely, Mox? Well, not right now. There's a damn huge building to the left. But soon it'll crest over and you can see the city. Very nice. Secret quest. You'll know once you've accomplished it. When I personally message you. It's funny how two people. Hello, controllers. Two people managed to do the quest so early into the month of November. It's just been a week since the Great Reset, and immediately we have, well, people bumping into them. What quests? I mean, you'll figure it out once you bump into it along the way. The big dragon butt went away too, yes, because it was in the way of the camera, dear Mox. The storm, huh? Again, for those that didn't hear it, there's an extremely strong storm that's gonna make landfall this Sunday. Hit its hardest on Monday. I cannot guarantee I'll be streaming on Monday because, well, my power and internet might be out. Sucks. Was it though? Yes, Smokes. I'll bring it back for some groceries. I'm just joking. Typhoon season, yes. Filipinos in chat. How many typhoons do we get per year? Like more than a dozen, right? It's just any other rainy Tuesday. Except there's floods and rows being swept away. 3 to 7. Why if it isn't good old Beth? Hi there, friend. Gosh. How you doing? What? Why does my back hurt a bit? Should I adopt a posture which is more relaxing? Wow. I like this place. As uncomfortable as the seats are in this tram, well, that's why I had to go sit in my own stool instead. Oops. Oh, play space. Come on, buddy. Oops. Oh, that's weird. I can't play space because we're moving. I like it because you can feel the wind in your face. Nice and breezy. What's this? Wish says, well, I suppose I don't have much to do tonight. Might sketch out a new Avi. See if I can make one of my Avis out of it. Oh, my eyes are itchy. I see. Surely something fantastic will come out of your creative manifestation wish. Beth says tired. I got held hostage at the embassy event for like 2 hours OT. Oh, yes. Well, go decompress, Beth. I assume I can safely say, welcome home. Work on some face tracking. I remember Axiom's project earlier. He too was working on some pseudo face tracking for something. It would be funny to finally see it in action. See it in action. Oh, I slept on the Uber home. I gotta get your rest. Axiom says it be working, so later I can show you. Sure, sounds fantastic to me. It's a little toasty tonight, isn't it? It's as if my AC does not want to grant its cold embrace as efficiently tonight. So the other day, I was invited to a dinner, right? So as I've said, I had some prawns and whatnot in this buffet. But prior to that, we arrived 2 hours and a half too early. We had to burn the time. The buffet starts its dinner course at 5:30 p.m. I was there at 3 or 2:45. So we went to this massage parlor. It was this Bangkok something. I haven't been to any such place since ever. So here I was being given the complimentary robe and whatnot. And there was the heated rocks and what they put it in my back. It was, how should I say this? I did not notice the time passing, nor me borderline falling asleep. It was pretty nice. It's as if all the hard knots in my shoulders just seemingly got squashed away. Came out feeling more limber, with better circulation. Not sure about the oil they rubbed all over my body, but I suppose that's part of the experience. I wish the lady that was handling me had a bit more strength, though. She had to get on top and be on her knees just to exert enough effort while I was on my back. It was funny how he was really careful at first. I had a hand massage including in the package. She would grab my fingers, just pull it like this, and then do rotations and then stretches. She did funny stuff that made sounds. Um, Massage. I'll probably go back. It's not bad, is it? $25. Yeah, boss. Do you have any tips on driving? Oh, it can't be bad life advice, huh? Always have the option to go play some music so you can keep your mind off the road and the rage that usually plagues it. Axim says, I wanted to finally add the brooch to my avatar. Turns out I don't have the file for it. Redesign time. Axiom, I'm all for the redesign. It's gonna be hard to top off. Where did it go? Did I drop it? Hello? There we go. It's back. So, yes, hard to top off this design. But by all means, Axiom, make sure to attach the bones too, so the lower part swivels. Any suggestions? How would you improve a design already simplified and that fits within theme? I'm all ears, Jan. And if you can drop in an idea. What do you think? I find it funny to see the brooch gone for a bit. I didn't realize it. Ah? Who knows? I could not be wearing boxers as we're speaking. Wait, does that even make sense? Right? You never know. Till you notice. Disclaimer, chat. I wear underwear. Okay. Yeah. Balancing act. Okay. I need to do something about this posture. Now. Oh wow. Look at that coast. Wait, that's not a coast, no. We're really just high up, and that's a cloud layer. Which says read the sign. I'm normally good at those things, but I'm not quite the person to ask right now. Please, I know your mental faculties are rather low power at the moment, so don't stress over it. Perhaps I have a latch on the design I can probably lend a hand. Let's see. Good old Brucerino. This funny thing. Essentially, it's just this, really. Except made of, what is this, brass? Copper. Boss says, when you said you might not be wearing boxers, I lost connection to stream. You flustered my connection. Boxer Free Friday. Sometimes you just need, how should I say this? The surplus of space. I mean, come on. You know when you're outside in a long, hard day of work or just draining your social battery and some gathering and friends and whatnot. And then you come home, you finally undo your belt, you take off your pants and everything, right? And then you take off your boxers. It's like, oh, it's the most liberating feeling of all. Beth, thank you so much. Oh, look. I'm not even gonna lie. The money is very much needed. I welcome it. I love it. I'm also really worried because Mr. Governmentio is not funneling money to those that need to be paid. That's you. I don't want you to be caught without being able to buy your usual coffee on a day where it's needed. What am I saying? I appreciate it all the same, Beth. Thanks. You need to sleep more, Mitzi. Need the fresh airflow between the legs. Right? Ain't it the best? Finally, those can breathe. Beth says I have 90 packs of ramen. Then you are set for 3 years. I remember in college, I used to survive off instant noodles for two reasons. One, my allowance was really small. I had barely any money left after having to pay for transportation, laundry, and other etceterables. And two, because it was delicious, chat. Instant noodles is just so good, but it's so bad for the body. 3 years of extremely frugal eating is you only eat one pack every. Yes, a lot. Not every day. Wish says, oh yes, I took your advice with the mic cap. I got the Holy Land A1 Mini. I realized it's what a lot of Filipino vloggers use. Is that a DJI? That's fine. They're on the same thing. No, hold on. I could have sworn I said the Holy Land Lark though. Ah, I didn't know what they did to the hardware, but my audio certainly sounds better than those videos. Perhaps a new, better revision of the same hardware. I'm glad you got something better. The Holy Land Lark A1 Mini. There you go. Nice little flying saucer you attach. Listen, the good news here is my computer is working, says Mitzi, who's been tackling with the system rebuild a few days ago. My sleep schedule is not working, clearly cancelled out, so it's fine. Exactly. Your system boots up as your body is unable to shut down. Clearly balances each other's out. But nom, says Action. True. It's very filling, says Shopal. True. Those of you from the Philippines, my old favorite was this thing called Lucky Me's Curly Spaghetti. It was in a white package. Instant spaghetti, yes. It was for me, it was better than the real spaghetti with the tomato sauce. I don't know why. Maybe they sprinkle funny powder on it, so I like it so much. Hello, Vanya. So, like an eighth of a pack every day. You just have. One. There we go. Guess who forgot to charge their mic? Oops. Let me just go clip it back on the headset like that. I 3D printed a mount for my Quest Pro in order to go mount this thing. I'm back. I was so shocked it went quiet. Well, I'm glad you didn't hear the rest of what I said. A 3D printed mount, yes. I cannot adhesive tape it anywhere properly, so I had to design something in Blender. God, it took like 5 iterations. Thank goodness I have a lot of filament just lying around. Rip Handsome Games voice. Oh gosh. I just clip it to my shirt. I've tried attaching it to my chest strap. The audio just isn't right for what I wanted to. Yeah, so why if it isn't cheaty? It's been a good minute since I've seen you. How goes everything? Also, hello cheaties, chat. What are you guys up to? I need to get myself a 3D printer. Bamboo A1 Mini, 200 something bucks. That's all you need for 99% of your prints. I know how the audio issues is a thing. Aha! Yeah, but what were you up to, Cheaty? VR chat? Games? So hello, Spen, no discus. Fluffy. It's so funny. I always imagine Fluffy just going around in circles, right? Going on his third, and each time he makes a lap, somehow a few coins falls out of his pocket. And well, me being the efficient person I am, not wanting to waste any resources, I pick it up and place it in my pockets. So thank you, Fluffy. What's this? Ooh, Beth sharing some of his ramen money. To be fair, I did eat 2 bullducks the other day. My mouth was not happy. That thing was not happy too, a couple of hours later. I have the appropriate name for it. No, not name, meme. I'm sorry for your toilet. It's as hot as it came in. There we go. I have an Ender V3 clone. Oh, well, as long as it works, right, Wish? Might have figured out the secret quest. Let me tell you a big clue, Nord. The secret quests are dynamic things. And more often than not, they are never the same between people. Yes. Think of it as an encounter down the road as your party travels. What do you do in that given situation? Also, anonymous. Anonymous. There's no MEOW, so it can't be a certain person. Oh, whoever you are, thank you. It says, holy cow, what an avatar you have. Where? Me. I'm just a guy. Nothing special, really. Cheaty says, my husband bought the meme Bulldog. The times 3. Oh yeah, you're dead. It's the only hot food he said he would never do again. Incredible. Ooh. Then no, definitely not. Wait, Axel? Axel, you didn't have to. You're gonna make it look like I'm that lunch bully that he meets you in the back of school. And then I'm grabbing you by the collar, and then I'm asking for your allowance, please. But thank you, Axel. I'm saying you should be more frugal because you're a student. I would rather you're still going to school. Yes. I only ate ramen today because I knew eating something like mozzarella sticks would have me sick later. Sick? Are you lactose intolerant, Vesp? Hmm. It's amazing, says
More
Speno.
shinnies.
The lighting isn't even particularly good right now. Right? It's I'm trying my best. Secret quests are like get the government to pay. That's true. That's true. Demon Lord Beef needs the money. Draung just. Draung always like. Draung has no use for these things like gold and jewelry. And then he just brushes it off his scales. And I, well, usually, as usual, scrounge and put it in my little parcel, my pouch. I have to get going, says Cheaty. Husband and I need to do the shopping for the weekend. Have a wonderful stream, Gab. No, you have a wonderful time shopping with Mr. Significant Other. I'll see you around next time. And thanks for the rain. I think you look the best in dark with a direct side lighting. I know. I wanted to try something in which I'm moving. Did you not notice the wind that's blowing ever
For
so
beef.
softly? Ah. Unfortunately, I don't know any other worlds in which you really go around. All my past streams have just been me sitting static in some place like this. And yes, to be fair, I could go to the diner. I might just do that. I'm curious how this looks on evening air. And so we teleport into. I can see the menu. Alright, buddy. Search worlds. And we're gonna enter commercial break. Did you know that if you drink milk twice a day, you can probably drink a third cup the next? A little thoughtful thing for those that are lactose intolerant. If you eat chocolate bars on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it means you skip those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You always have to keep that in mind. See you later, yo. Have fun at B&M. Says Spenno. Vesper says not lactose intolerant. Thus, Grease and I do not mix well lately. True. Ah, we're back in the diner, where I do most well in this dark lighting. Better. Fluff. Ah, that's another loop. Thank you, Fluffy. Now let me go fix the lighting because Nordic says it looks good. But I don't think it looks good enough. First, the rim lighting. It's about that bit too strong. Let's have it a nice old blue. Whoa! Oh, I'm stepping on that spot again. I swear I need to ask my neighbor if he has a router directly underneath this spot on my. Yes. Gotta go now.
Have a nice rest of the stream.
Bye, Fluffy. Thank you so much. I'll see you around. We were there for my last birthday, says Vesper. Oh. Whoa, too intense. Keep it natural. Like this. Actually, natural light's more like this.
Nice.
Nice cool glow of the evening. There we go. Nice. I aim for 69. Oh well. It's okay. I mean, you can keep. A spot of particularly bad reception. Oh, I need to rework my angles then. Wow, I am not sitting on the chair, am I? Yeah, upsy daisy. Here. There. I really like this place. It's so homey. Speaking of lightings, I need to add some lighting for my own stream. Did you know there's this prefab called the Atlas Lights that, well, it's what I'm using, that can provide a nice controllable spotlight for your Avi? Well, re-add them. Oh, if you already have a system in place, go ahead. Curious to see it. No, it's right there. Maybe there's lead under that carpet, Gib. Probably. Well, my neighbors are off to go troll me. It's like, that guy upstairs keeps on streaming at God knows what hour. I heard he uses VR, so. Let me go fix my position real quick. There we go. There. Good shot. 3/4. You can see a dynamic element behind me, which is the moving ceiling fan inside the diner. I heard Yes, yes, you did. Shiny. Right. Hmm? Now, settings. What? What? There we go. Now, Beth is saying something about the MAOW redeem. He is 54.3k away, dangerously close to achieving that goal, which is bad. Presenting a cruiser, a muscle car, most of all, a cat. That cat may look like my cat, chat, but he is not my cat. Yes, I do have a black cat just like him with a red collar, just like said cat. But, close enough. I'll pretend he's yummy. Just because it makes me smile. So there you go, Shopao. I hope you're happy. Yummy, not yummy. Isn't it nice how he's just minding his own business, staring at the highway the same way I am, seeing the cars pass by. The long lost cousin of Yami. Oh, God, goodness. That one hit in the bush. What is with this? Oh, occlusion. That's what's been happening. This is the time where I kind of miss my slimes. There we go. Come on, let's have a bit of contrast. Better. Spin 2 look. Look like a hooligan in this pose. Alright, let's have the vanishing point as something in the middle, and we're good. Alright, chat. Cat version of Geb streaming to his followers on the bench next to you. That's true. That's true. It might he might have a following bigger than me, probably. Oh, get me and my 50,000 viewers. Lucky. Alas. I wonder what's it like. Those big streamers just handling tens of thousands of people watching them, at the same time. I feel like I would be neglecting a big portion of chat if I ever grow that large. I have to think of strategies into how to handle their messages. I'm already stretching it when I have like 80 plus people watching. During the rare instances that it happened, people probably got bored of me though, so we're back to the 40s and 30s. 30s of very quality viewers though. I love you being here. Feels like a good plan, but need to wait. If multiple people redeem it at once, you can try. Can't guarantee anything though. Oh dear. Hold on. Go extra cold. You use the redeem. Sneaky lizard. Did I put up any safeguards for said thing? Don't remember. Guess we'll find out once you guys finally have the points. Won't we? Probably gonna be a very messy weekend on my part. Big old storm just around the corner. ST. I swear there's something different with the camera. I'm not getting the good shots that I usually have. Dude, that or my lighting is whack. Did it reset? Lighting. Aha. Nope. It's interesting. You definitely have a better eye for such things, Gab. I can't see a difference. I try to keep things subtle. Wistream says. So someone tipped me off that Vengeant. I watch him. He does all sorts of cool remixes on the most mundane of sounds. One of my favorite D&B artists got their own entire discovery for like 20 pesos for the next few days. I'm gonna be happy to have some high quality MP3s of their tracks. Isn't he on Spotify? 20 pesos, huh? It's making it so accessible, considerate of people. He seems like a swell guy, Wish. If you guys watch these videos on TikTok or Instagram, I am utterly enthralled, amazed, hypnotized whenever there's the sweeping laser of any sort that is used to ablate the surface of metals to get rid of rust and whatnot. The it does that like what? Absolutely hypnotic. They are on Spotify, says Wish, but you can buy their entire discography right now on Bandcamp. What's the difference, Wish? I'm not so knowledgeable on this topic. All I use is Spotify for music, that's it. I pay the premium per month, which is super cheap, and roll along with it. Oh, hey, yeah, look, redesigned the beans to those that matter. Did a bit of sculpting. Bandcamp is more for direct downloads and basically digital album. Oh, so I don't have to rely on streaming it. It's going to be offline. I need to look into that. Bandcamp. Nice. Work with them. Yeah, before they were just like flat pancakes. Sort of like in my hand, see. But this one I don't. I like the shape. I keep it like this. And often they have bonus tracks on them for some artists. I see. Bev says, though I thought Spotify you can download a place to go for offline. Ah, wishes. He is. Our team actually met him. Really genuine guy, pretty swell, really. Offered to compose for a game. Not sure if that deal went through. I would let him compose anything for me. I like how he looks too, with the whole circular glasses thing. Such a character. Memorable. You know what? I'm gonna continue. On Monday, I'm gonna stream here again. If the damn storm doesn't knock out my essentials. I really hope not. This is a bad angle like this. I look like I have a really long neck in this angle, don't I? Hey, officer. Hi, Stars Wolf. Ah, you can't keep the files outside of Spotify, says Wish. Gosh. The rats. If only. Hopefully all the water will stay outside. Same here. No, my apartment is 95% waterproof anyway. The 5%? Well, there's a little bit of seepage that goes underneath my foam floors, but I kind of ran out of materials to go buy it. It's okay. I'm just letting it evaporate instead. Maybe I get back to it when I've the time and resources to. Oh. Doc says, I'm still in the dark ages when it comes to streaming music. I use YouTube with an ad blocker. Oh dear, don't let them hear you. I'm gonna go hydrate. Just aim a hairdryer at it. Yes, I let the AC do all the evaporating. Ah, wow, that's so sour. Oh, what the heck? Surprising. Got this aftertaste to it. Peach, some off-brand peach drink. Coop it with silicone. I really did. We've. I just need to. I believe it's the outdoors part because I've already sealed the one side of the window, but outside it's you need scaffolding in order to access it. Yeah, pay one of the guys in the maintenance and. Yeah. Oh no, they're halfway done with it. I remember seeing them the other day when I went out for the dinner, and I saw half of the building painted over. Unfortunately, that's the half in which I am not over at. So the waterproofing thing that they're applying, it does not cover my room. One of those floor fans would dry it out. I have said floor fan. It was included in the Gebus apartment fund. Doc says the browser I have allows for offline downloading and playlists, so I just never switched. Again, if it works, then awesome. Man. Rickety crack crack. Maybe I set up another overlay. Over there. Put it there. Make it larger. Opacity lower. Bam bam there. So it means I can roam around. This will be my look at me cam. Walking. There. And we're gonna go. Narrow the aperture a teeny bit. Actually, wait, no. Let's keep it here. There we go. There, so I can go. Bam. And thus I can explore while still reading your messages. Hi, chat. I'm here. So lovely. Whimsical. Try again. Whimsical Griffin says, wish I had the tech know-how to do avatar stuff like yours. I'd love to have a fully posable face rig stuff. Just like what you have. Google VR chat face tracking tutorial. You start from there. And I'm sure you can go quite a distance with it. Try the third layout here. Essentially, just have huge monitors everywhere. Wish? Whimsical? What? I'm confused. I'm setting up my stuff while reading chat. So if I go here. Ah, light balance. What? What? Hey, who 10 watch streak? Congratulations. You're 4 days away from being only 2 week watch streak. 2 weeks, huh? You've been tuning into this guy for 10 days straight. I think you need to have better things to do in life. I'm just joking. Not you. Let's see. Better things to do, huh? Bored with a gun. That's Axiom Atom you're talking about. Have you seen a silly little Abby with a... Yes, the thing in the beak. I like listening to you, so I tune in when I can. Well, I am most flattered by an individual who likes me just yapping about the most mundane things in life. Sometimes I even say nonsense like, should you wish to improve your router, if it's a 6 antenna or less, you put it in the microwave for 32 seconds exactly. Set on to high. Oh, God. Oh, I heard you can also recharge the phone that way, right? Similarly, during the times when things ran on AA, AAA, D-cell batteries like a trusty old Maglite flashlight. Oh, it ran out and no time to run to your local store to buy replenishments. All you gotta do is get your depleted cell and put it in the freezer for a few hours and bam, magically have charged again. May or may not be real. Vesper says, I still need to take a peek at closing assets when I get home. But first I need to look at the winter coat. My leather jacket is falling apart. IRL, well, don't get the chill, love. It would be terrible if you catch some cold during this winter season. Mm-mm. Bam. You'll never get a cold if you have the Christmas spirit. That's true. I would play the music right now, actually, but I kinda wanna spare chat the trouble of hearing the defrosted songs. Now that we reach our 1 hour and a half mark, we're gonna go back to Discord, and all we see are the two rather what's the proper term? Older members. There we go. Let's just be frank. Older members in the VC. That's Biff and Nord. Ardalope says, God, writing this paper is taking forever. At this point, the main motivation is just getting it over with. You can do it, Ard. I don't know if you're watching, but smart looking guy like you can squash that paper of yours in no time. Just don't get distracted while working at it like I do. Time to join in, please. May wanna spare chat axiom. Drive them crazy. Christmas. Christmas is just around the corner. Oh, yes. Now. Uh oh. You know, that makes me want to explore my Spotify. Let's go to my like songs. Did I add anything new? Right. Diablo. Was I just called older? Listen, my bones may be cracking. But the party is still rocking. Hey. I keep on going back to this particular song. Don't know why. It's nice. I think it's one of Axiom's favorites. Can't wait for Christmas songs. Let's see. How about we go explore some of the music I have here? What is this? Geb Vibes. I remember my community suggesting this to me. Wow, it's a lot of songs. Okay. So nice. This better be good. I remember this is from Blue. Oh,
All I want for Christmas is for it to be Christmas again.
damn. Christmas. How many Christmases has it been? As I fondly remember, I will be at home waiting until the clock hits 12. Christmas dinner is laid out on the table, all of us eagerly awaiting until that special chime and the clock starts to happen. And bam, it's 12. It's someone's birthday. Mom calls us down at the Christmas tree that's around 7 feet tall, full of baubles, decorations, little writings, and well wishes. Cards hung, wrote in sincerity. And right below it, gifts. Gifts scrounge from what little money we were able to save up. The important thing is the thought. We say it's a thought, but more often than not, if I just gave a card, Mom would get mad. So I made the effort. A grocery visit here, a department store visit there. Grab a shirt, grab a towel, maybe write someone's name on it. Bam, drop it in gift wrapper. You have your gift. Quota for the year. Mom would pull up a list. 1, 2, 3, 10, 15. It would go on. At least it didn't hit 3 digits. It would be at random. 1. Geb, this is for you. 2. Geb's sister, this is for you. 3. Geb's brother, this is for you. So on and so forth until each one of us has at least 4 gifts each. After that, sometimes I would unwrap a gift out of hasty impatience. But the gifts that I know that are soft and floppy, usually clothes, I would open them later when I'm at my room. We would go all sit by the table, do some ritual, a prayer if I recall. Say Merry Christmas. And then we eat. A feast, quaint, but plenty. More than enough for a family of 6. Christmas ham, cheeses, and wines, opened only during special occasions, except the ham that was recently acquired. My favorite out of the bunch was not the ones you could readily buy from any store that's wanting to clear out their stock right before Christmas Eve. It's the ones cooked by Mom herself. Strange, it usually didn't mix. She would prepare some gingered steamed fish, or maybe some Chinese pork stew, slow cook, 3, 4, 5 hours. Meat just separating from the bone. You try and put it in your plate. I remember us having to eat grapes or something for luck. Luck, huh? Yes, I can consider myself lucky, but my Christmases were good. Nice. Memorable. I'm so fond of it. Grasping at a time that is no longer. Christmas. Wow, I went on a monologue, didn't I? Music really knows how to sway the brain. Good choice. Whoever put this track in this playlist. Jasper says, it used to be rather nice. Every gift is a prize that I would love. Sadly, nowadays it's Amazon wishlist and gift cards since I first reached adulthood. I still look forward to the magic of celebrating with those I genuinely love and care about. The magic isn't dead, just different. Agreed. Maybe the spell isn't as effective as it was before. At least you're finding ways to keep it alive, right? Christmas 10, 15, 20 years ago. You could have sworn the wrappers were more vibrant, more red, more gold, more trees and silly art of Santa Claus. Candy canes, stockings, Snowmen. Rudolph, that red-nosed reindeer. Christmas. I wanted to be more fond of the season before that. That's Halloween. Vesper's very fond of this. Pumpkins, carvings, smokes and screams, candies and whatnot. Trick or treat. Hollywood really glamorized how nice and special Halloween is. Unfortunately, where I live, it's not something people really do. There's no parties, no costumes worn by friends, and show and tells where you're all excited. You would be visiting graves and sending, well, one way conversations with loved ones that are no longer here. It's different. We'd spend the entire evening over at the tombs of our loved ones. Back then, rechargeable lights accessible through USB-C and whatnot. Power banks weren't there. It's telling of the age in which I last attended, but it's nice when you're in a field with nothing but graves, illuminated by the soft kiss of yellow candlelight, and the moon above. For some odd reason, the moon was strangely more luminescent than usual during these times. So bright, in fact, that if you look at the grass by your feet, you can see the shadows being casted by the hand used for testing. Now, layer between you and the sky is just so thick with muck. I don't even remember the pattern of the stars above me. I fear the day we can no longer look into the heavens and see what sparkles above. My goodness, chat got quiet. Hi. See, it's either of two things. You got absorbed, or you got bored. Probably the latter. Who is this guy? What the heck is he even talking about? I got sad, says Action. Oh dear. Don't be so sad. You can always cast a spell again. With better company. Nox says I miss seeing the stars. I've always lived with heavy light pollution. I see. That's right, Gam. Just listening, but I'm here, says Norm. Sorry, my food I ordered and shouldn't have is here. You can always lend it to me. Just toss it over this table. Over here. Beth says this made me realize it's getting close to Christmas and I need to figure out my gifts. Gifts, huh? Gosh. Well, I hope the government does the gift of paying you your wage first. Or else you're gonna be in trouble trying to fulfill that shopping list of yours for the holidays. I'm crossing my fingers, Beth. Time check for the lizard. 1 hour and 46 minutes. It's so quick. Don't stream too long, okay? I'm betting you'll appreciate a nap later. Don't worry about it. I won't. I'll stick to 2 hours and a half. Don't quote me on that later. Biff says, I mean, if they shut down more flights, it may sort itself out since family can't get here. That's one way to solve the problem. Has it been that long? Felt longer, says Wish. Same here. I'm surprised you're still here, Wish. Shouldn't you be trying to get some sleep? I'll be streaming for another 40 minutes. Rook says I've got a 14-hour drive for the holidays this year, unless someone wants to fly me down. I don't know about the flying part, but last I checked, flights are expensive. Good luck, man, says Knox the Rook. Beth says if you're in the US, it may turn a 14-hour drive into a 5-hour wait at TSA. Ah, the wonderful TSA. I've seen videos about that. We had to drive halfway across the US to see my brother, and it was the worst road trip ever, says Knox. I don't know. Road trips are in a shared car where you get bored and somebody has to pee, but the rest don't. More tedious than anything. Unless you're riding with your car crush, for example. Oops. There was a bump in the road. Rook says thankfully I can bypass TSA. Lifelong pre-check. What's a lifelong pre-check, Rook? Do they have a tracker in your body or something? TSA, the people that no matter how many times I fly, they still get angry. Shoes on, shoes off, take the laptop out of the bag, leave it in the bag. The ones who hassle, I see. Jacket on, jacket off, underwear on, underwear off. Stretchy gloves. Please enter the room, sir. The government won't pay for me to get pre-checked. Ah. Christmas miracle. Oh wow, look at all that dice. Nice connection, Nord. Beth says, I swear they just want to get handsy with me, so no matter what I do, it's wrong. They just want to have some of your beef. I like the one with cracks in particular, Nord. Super cool. Starswell says, I'm gonna fly to Romania or Romania for the first time this January. It'll be the time I've ever flown anywhere on a plane. Well, good luck on your flight. I hope it's not much of a hassle to do. It's a stretch. Vesper says, honestly, it's not terrible driving out for holiday events. I just don't plan on joining in on the Christmas baking unless it's absolutely mandatory. Christmas baking? That sounds good. Gonna be flying with my little sister and dad, says Starswolf. I see. Well, enjoy your trip. Better be good. Baking, sweets and treats. Of course, Mox is summoned with well, the thought of such things. Man, I would be lying if I say I wasn't. Chocolate chip cookies with lots of butter on it, nice and crisp and deep in taste. Creamy, generous. Usually, the cookies that are good are the ones that are dome shaped. Because you know that the middle part is ever so slightly chewier. Runk says, the hardest part is gonna be making myself drive back home. Don't have a lot waiting for me back here. Oh, yes, the boring part. Where you've driven, enjoy the destination, and then you have to do the same thing heading back. Oh. It says, can I cross my arms? The last time I went to Romania, it was a 36-hour-long car drive. A day and a half? Straight? That's no easy feat. Gosh. Yes, our dad drove the entire way. Tough man, made of iron, probably. Mark says the dome shape can be achieved by putting pre-rolled cookie dough balls in the freezer. Get the oven preheated and throw them in there when it's time to bake. No need to thaw. I'll keep mind of this tip in the future if and when I get an oven. And I get to bake cookies. Maybe in my living space Mark III. Mm-hmm. What's this? Let's listen to more music from the GIP playlist. Suggested by my community. So I'm adjusting my thigh trackers. They have a tendency to go slip down. Why you never play my playlist? I mean, I do, just off stream. You know me, I'm all for nostalgia, Axiom. Gosh. Shoulders a little stiff. You need thicker thighs. Oh. I bet your playlist is great. I bet Action's playlist is indeed great. What is this? Looks like some meditative trance thing. Okay, no, you lost me. Warhol by Eric Trufas and Murkoff. What's this? It's listening. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of rap chat. The moment the introduction's nice, right? And then there's a rap in the middle. Rap. Just not my jam. Sort of like with Sleep Token, Vesper's favorite band. I like this one track called like Return Me to Eden or something. I really love the first part, and then they start rapping in the middle. Yeah, I stopped there. What's this? I just need a nice fiddle and brass section. Yes. This sounds like a good mix of jazz, noir, and Metal Gear music. Alright, so what's the plan? You called me here for a reason, and I have work tomorrow. You know, it's both our necks on the line if the chief finds out, right? Something like that. some shady deal or proposition made during the evening. Mark says I should send you some of my Japanese city pop. Stay with me? Yes. I'm a big fan of music that sets the mood for the stage. And it matches the scenery. Music that tells a story that isn't your usual romance or depressing crap. Hydrate, huh? So you want me to drink? So be it. Go on, chat. I'll go imbibe. Here. I mostly listen to power metal and pirate metal. Pirate metal? I sent you one of the FLAC files on Discord, says Moss. A Midnight Rendezvous by Cassiopeia. I'll check it out after stream. You need a hydration camera pointing down at you when you drink for dramatic effect. It's just a zoom in, and it goes widescreen, right? Sure. I got to see Ailstorm live a little while ago. It was amazing. I see. Live, huh? Not a big fan of concerts. Too crowded, too much noise. Rather have music in which I can adjust the volume and choose the company around me. Interesting track. I like it. Needs a dramatic like mist. You're in a hangar, right? Steam blowing from some pipe. Yo, so what's the plan? We're running low on ammo. And if we have to access the engineering bay, we have to go through that catwalk again. And we only have one spacesuit. Definitely not gonna be me. There's some tense situation like that. Oh, wow, it's starting to sound like Terraria a bit. Ace Combat Hang. I thought it was a little bit more bright. There was this one Ace Combat game I really like. It wasn't the one grounded in reality. It was the one with bosses. I remember fighting this enormous blimp with guns everywhere. I think it was Ace Combat Strato something. It was this fancy electric technological term. Okay, I'm done with this track. To the essential one. Oh, by Nicholas Payton, huh? A lot of the Ace Combats had crazy. Electrospear, yeah, that one. Ace Combat Electrospear. I'm still waiting for a day where we get an Ace Combat, but it's naval combat, right? You control ships, destroyers, and whatnot with the same amount of budget. I remember there being a PS2 game before, like Commander something. It was amazing. You would build your own ship, the layout, the hull, see how the weapons are, and everything. I wish they'd put the modern Ace Combat in the Electrospear setting. It was great. Says a rock. Same. Beth loved the crap out of 4 and 6, though Project Wingman was also fire. I was a little bit let down about the final boss in Project Wingman. He had an amazing, like, shoot everywhere sort of weapon though once you beat him. One of the things I really enjoyed in these games, like Ace Combat and Project Wingman for example, was whenever I had to go hunt for aces, I would go fly in some obscure part of the map, see that funny, if I remember correctly, gold name, and I would get a special reward if I go blow his aircraft up. And I wish I stuck with Crossout. I wish Crossout had the same network handling as War Thunder, then I would play it more. But unfortunately, with 300 plus ping, it's pretty much unplayable on my end. I played Crossout the moment they allowed beta testing. Oh, how I wish I could play my Fat Man again. So what I built was a Humvee, right? So this was if this was the front of the Humvee, one side on the right had spaced armor on it, door vans and anything I could put. It was only on one side. And then on top it had the tank cannon, like a 76 I think. Whenever I fight enemies, I would just drive forward and backward to relocate, and then the spaced armor would absorb the hits. Genius. And then it started becoming ridiculous with all the flyers and the hovercrafts and whatnot. Yes. Oh, we're playing this again. Ending image. What's this? Eh. This is called Dead Indeed. Alright. Somebody say yacht. Just ask from Beth. I probably has a spare one just sitting around. A yacht. Okay. Got lost in the music for a while. I think these are some pretty interesting tracks. Let me increase the volume a teeny bit. There. Oh, too fast. Oh my goodness. Blues after dark. Oh, tracks long lost forgotten. Shh. Well then, where did I put the camera? Let's sit back down. Toast sandwich after toast sandwich. Oh. Dare I say what? In thigh highs. Thigh highs. Beth, can we borrow one of your yachts? Says Howler. I have been summoned, says Blue. Of course you've been summoned. Another hazard in sight, yet Blue somehow shows up. Yes, says Beth, replying to Howler. Hide it before the bank takes it back since I'm not making payments on it. Ah, darn shutdowns. Terrible. If I owned a yacht, 20% of the time I'd probably be outside enjoying the sea air. And then I get tired of it. And then I'm just gonna retreat back to my cabin, put on my headset, and log in VR chat. It's. I don't think that's a good investiture of money. VR on a rocking boat. That's going to be interesting. It's gonna be like that. Oh my goodness, you're right. The seasickness. VR with a sense of momentum and left and right. I might probably puke. You get them sea legs, but it would be funny for everyone watching. Funny. Yep, it's more proper. Sea legs. There's some good tracks. I'm gonna get copyright strike though. Let's listen to the next one. Nice. Right in the veins, Beth says no. Huh. Mark says, why would I want to go to a Korean-owned restaurant if they're serving American food? That's good question. Maybe they make some really good food. Oh no, lurkers, I'm about to see the chatter list. Ah, I see Misty's watching. Okay, interesting. Well now, almost out of time this fine evening. We should get going soon. Probably is a keyword. Let's make things more lighthearted by showing my illuminated side. Ish. If Gav figures out the code, there might be shinies involved. Brine in the veins. I don't know, Nord. My knowledge on films stems from pretty much the 90s onwards. Maybe a little bit of the 80s. Brine in the veins. Well, you gotta get some details out and rolling so I have more context if we're gonna play a guessing game on films. Beth says that's fair, we don't have knowledge as far back as the Greybeard. That's true. 1995, a TV series. Okay, yeah, I haven't been watching any TV series by that time. If it was a film, maybe it would have be easier. I don't think Geb is nerdy enough for that one. That's true. Could it be? What could it be, I wonder? It was a very good episode. Clearly, I have not been keeping track of any series by the time. My knowledge goes to something like Star Trek Voyager or Farscape, the stuff I explained before, Sliders, Hercules, Warrior Princess Cena. If it's older than that, well. Just mentioned a clue. Clue. A title is a clue. What? Farscape? Sliders? Sliders? Farscape? I mentioned Star Trek Voyager, not Deep Space Nine. There's Star Trek Voyager. Oh, is this in the Star Trek universe? God, what adventures did Miss Catherine Janeway go through? Hmm. Oh my goodness, I don't remember. I was too focused on 7 of 9 to really. I thought 7 of 9 was really hot. Bombshell. Enough cybernetics, sharp eyes. A bit cold, but warm enough to the touch. See, I don't know. I don't know what episode that was. You have to give me more clues. My favorite characters though from that series was Doctor. Late, but I'm at least flying in to say hi. Hope stream was good. Well, it got better now that you dropped by, Kuda. How you doing, Noodle? I posted a few screenshots of us in the VR chat pictures channel. I said, this Noodle likes to yap a lot. In a good way, of course. Yeah, in Star Trek Voyager, I don't remember all the episodes. Nord. 30 days. What happens in this episode? Maybe it was one that I missed. Didn't watch every single episode, Nord. Oh, so it's good. Husband's birthday today. We made tasty food together and gonna take it easy. Day to nicely relax with delicious food as accompaniment. What better? Especially with your SO. Oh, go, shoot. Don't linger here. You have better things to do. Better things to do. Why watch somebody that's black and blue? Also, I'm envious that you guys have good food. Ugh, what do I have in my fridge? So I'll find out later. Okay, disclaimer, Nord. I had no control over the television back then. I was just watching whatever mom was watching at the time. Hello, Hex Dupy. Huh. At least I got close enough. Let me just travel to the Philippines. I'll make good food. I mean, can't say no to good food that's free. Yes. Oh, don't worry. I can still see chat. I don't recall a single episode name, but I do have snippets of what happens throughout the entire series. All I remember is their great foe was not the Borg, but it was this species. What the heck was that? Like 626? No, that's Stitch. It was the species that was in fluidic space. They really had to armor up Voyager at one point. It was sick. Had like plating all over. 6281. 8472. 8472. Oh, yes. I also found this one episode really interesting. It was where they were on a planet surrounded by some temporal anomaly. in which time on the planet goes so fast that they spotted Voyager when it was still in the primitive ages, all the way to the Middle Ages, modern times, where they launched a rocket, it landed, boarded. Well, no, the crew took in the astronaut. And
Forever.
then when the astronaut went back, the NASA or Space Command of his time is no longer there because the society was so futuristic. Did they ever reach the point where they launched the equivalent of photon torpedoes towards the ship in the sky? Thank you, Nord. I appreciate that. Dirge for Europe. What's this music? I really hope I can stream on Monday. If not, then I will take it as a break day. So I'll be on Discord, at least on my mobile. It seems like Rook is an avid Trekkie. They say they can probably read ship schematics. Ship designs in Star Trek are not my favorite, but I really love the science and whatnot. Excuse me, that's being discussed there. I've recently watched a series called Foundation. I never really got far though. I may need to pick that up. And then there was the other one, the one with Jon Snow in it. It was a space thing. It was about Martians, Earthlings, and then the Belters. I can't remember the name. Oh, wow. 6 minutes left. So close. Red, really? Oh. Ah. Okay. It's time to look at who's streaming on the VR chat category. Do not play with audio, please. Corgi Cam. My goodness. That's an enormous amount of people on Corgi Cam stream. 600? What are they
Just
talking
like
about?
run up and grab. That's also very always, yeah. Anytime you're trying to make like physical contact with a fursuiter or anybody else, and it doesn't matter, always ask. But like overall, just have a good time.
Go Corgi. Going strong on the top row, almost surrounded by hot babes left and right. I can't even see the others because they're censored in the thumbnails. Hmm. Where am I? Come on, let's go bottom row, Gib. Wait, I'm not in the VR chat category. No wonder. I'm in just chatting. Oops. My God, Gordon. There we go. What's this? Damn, you're too realistic. What do you mean? I should be used to how I look by now, Axiom. Oops. Raid that Geb guy is pretty cool. Since you were not in VR chat category, just chat. Right? Hi. Look at the newest. Nah, never mind. Not even gonna make up BS. Time for the viewers to skyrocket since it's God. I think to most people I'm a tad bit too real, too grounded. To the moon. It may never enter my mind. You know one OST I like is from Arc Raiders. I wonder if they're in Spotify. What? What was added 21 hours ago? My friend has been trying to convince our group to get Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders is a beautifully crafted game. But, as usual, not everybody is into the PvP aspect of it. Aside from that, I love the combat. It's slow, it's grounded. Every shot matters, every engagement dangerous. The uncertainty of being able to bring in your hard-earned loot. Yes. Arc Raiders was fun, that LMG was fun. We we got our butts handed to us, didn't we? We engaged at the wrong time. We could have had that group. Our ambush was perfect. But then the drones, they just came out of nowhere. Kept us too busy. Gave the time enough, gave the enemy enough time to recover. Damn. Back to Speranza with nothing. And then right after we opened that funny door, the robots hitting you and then the drones hitting me after down, right? I've seen snippets of the game though. Yeah. The Leaper was apparently the smallest. I've seen the Queen and the Overlord. They're enormous, they're scary. Titans by their own right. You would need the help of other raiders, not just your own, to take it down. Esperanza. There we go. Yeah. Knox says, I get that. It's more so a fact that we have a 3-week phase before the new games get banished, never to be seen again. Mm, banished, huh? I kind of want to play again, but it's not free anymore. I have to go purchase it, and they, I'm good. Unfortunately, chat, we have reached your time. So grab the camera. Food talk. As much as I want to talk about food, I actually want to have enough charge in my trackers to go hang out in VR chat for a while. And then I have to recharge it again because Vesper's gonna go home, check on certain avatar things. Yes. And I invited a bunch of people to show up. I heard a ping. What is that? No, oh my god. No, Biff! What the You want us to suffer, don't you? Oh, apparently now I have Arc Raiders. Back to Speranza I go. Thanks, Beth. Appreciate it. But I didn't know it was going to make a sound. No, it's good. I wouldn't have known. Escape now. Red Lagoon. Now you gotta convince. Oh my. I don't know about Vesper. You see, there's no reinforced mechanic. If I got frustrated by the game, imagine that times 10 with her. Oh yeah, this is the music. I love this track. This is what hooked me. No mining for rock, huh? Alright, Rock. You do what you need to do. I have to go soon anyway. Time flows really quick. Let's see. Not my fault, fighters. I supported, defended. I cannot guarantee that I'm gonna be here live on Monday, everyone. Unfortunate, I know, but there's a storm incoming. A strong one at that. It may knock out my power. It may knock out my internet. But I hope neither of the two goes offline. I'll try my best to be here still, as scheduled. Yes. For now, I gotta go. Skedaddly do. If I don't see you on Monday, hopefully it's Wednesday. If things really go down, it's gonna take a while to come back online. That probably means next week, 7 days from now. Yeah. Thanks for joining me in today's stream, chat. I'm gonna go like listen to the OST first. It's super cool, but I'm gonna do it after stream, so I don't super extend. Say some really dumb monologue again. Ah, yes. This guy has clearly lost his marbles. Goodbye, have a good rest of your day, everyone. Yeah. See each other again anyway. Don't worry. Well then. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. And good night, chat. I'll say hi to the storm for you, don't worry. Storm or no storms are waiting and looking for the next stream. Stay cheery, get bye-bye. Yeah, I'll see you. Nord, Beth, Wask, Waffle, the ones that are still here, Mitzi, Knox, Rock, and everybody else lurking. I'll see you on next time. See you around, chat. Is what I would say if I didn't have any intention on reading. But no, I don't. See you. Oh boy, big storm ahead.